Hello. Hello. Okay, so I think we are good to go. Good evening, everyone. This is Atyasha Padhi. I will be a mentor for English and Personality Development course along with Dhairya. So a little bit introduction to me before starting with the session. I'm an undergrad student pursuing MBA Tech from NMIMS, and due to my uh, dual degree course, I am often exposed to both the managerial and the technical domains of certain trending technologies. My interest in communication science and behavioral science have brought me here, mentoring for the course of English and personality development. So before we get started, I am going to take the session from 6 to 7, and Dhairya would be taking the section for the next 1 hour. So before we start, I would like Dhairya to introduce herself.
Hi, Adyasha, and thank you so much. So Adyasha and me are going to be taking and covering the parts of English and communication for the course. There's also personality development parts to it, and I'm sure yesterday in yesterday's session and the sessions to come, there will be different aspects that the other mentors will cover. So my name is Dhairya Gangwani. I'm an electronics and communication engineer, and I graduated this year. I'm currently working with KPMG as an SAP analyst, and I've always been someone who's been very passionate about communication and English as a language in general. And hence, I took up this mentoring opportunity. Today, Adyasha is going to be obviously taking the first half of the session, and I'll be taking aspects of public speaking later on. So, without taking any more time, I would like to hand it over to Adyasha and have a great session.
Thanks, Arya. So now I will share the PPT. So, just to confirm whether my screen is visible, someone from Girls Trip, can they confirm that my screen is visible?
I can see it, Adyasha.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so first of all, welcome to the English and Personality Development course by Ye. Today's session, as Dhairya and I said, that is going to be taken by me and her. And so the first topic that I am going to discuss today is application of communication techniques in daily life. uh, all of us have. To start with the discussion, let's look at these two pictures that we have in front of us. So, if you look at the top left corner of your screen, you would see that there is a picture, and when you will start keenly observing it, you will realize that it's a picture from a formal scenario. Because why is it so? Because you can see that the people are dressed up in formal wear. They have certain etiquettes that they are following, and the whole atmosphere that you are looking into is actually a very kind of workplace scenario that you usually see in your surrounding. So we can conclude that this is a formal scenario. The the people involved in this image are wearing certain kind of formal dressing, and their etiquettes are very much into that lines of, when you are in exposed to a formal scenario, how you feel about it. So their etiquettes are also inclined towards that. And more keenly, if we observe, there are certain things that the image suggests, is that uh, the people are smiling in the image. That means that even though they are not talking anything, but their face expression is saying something good or positive has happened. That you will always definitely smile when there's something good happening, or is there something positive about it. Or moreover, if we see keenly, we see that the two parties are shaking their hands. So you shake hands when you meet someone, or when you know come into an agreement with someone. So we can also now conclude that there is certain kind of conversation that has happened before this picture. That means the parties have concluded over certain things that they are they come into the part of, okay, this is something that even I want, that is something also you want, or you can so we can have an agreement over it. Also, there is another thing that, okay, so there's this girl. Also, another thing can happen, that this girl is a potential candidate, and she just gave an interview, and she got selected, and the recruiters are congratulating her by shaking their hand. Now, when you shift your attention to the bottom right of your screen, you will see a more casual scenario. You will see that they are the as compared to the first image. This image is not that restrictive. All the participants in the conversation are quite casual about their attitude. They are not in any kind of restrictions. There is no kind of formality that they are showing. They're having a good time. They don't have any kind of restrictions to abide by with. and that is the reason that they are not, burdened with the thing that, okay, this is something that I have to act on, and or something of that sort. So both of these images suggest that there is some or the other communication or conversation that has took place in that particular surrounding. But when we come into the depth of it, we understand that they have contain a lot of differences in them. The way things were communicated in the first image is very different from the way the communication things are communicating in the second image. So we can suggest from the fact from these two images that the fact that communication goes hand in hand in our daily life. Whether you are in a workplace scenario or even chilling out with your friends or having a good time with your family, it doesn't matter. You are always communicating in some or the other way. But what matters is that depending on the circumstance that you are being exposed to, the whole scenario just changes. It just the whole way or your whole thing changes, your whole perspective changes towards it. So these are the things that we can suggest that. So as the PPT reads, in our day-to-day life, we encounter multiple situations where effective communication paves our way to success. So when we talk about communication techniques, we now know that okay, this is something so this is something that so the communication is being taking place, and so how do we master it? Knowing something is a thing, but then how mastering the art of communication will always give you a edge over things, whether you are in your workplace or in your personal life. Mastering the thing that okay, using this particular communication technique or talking this way in this particular manner will help me get an edge over things, will get me more successful with that particular thing, will increase the chance of your success in understanding the fact that okay, this is something that I want to achieve, and if I act in certain way, if I speak and if I present my ideas in a particular way, that way I can easily convey the fact that okay, what am I feeling, and if the other person agrees to your things, then you are good to go. There is no kind of conflict then. So today we are going to discuss about 2 to 3 scenarios where effective communication techniques comes into place, and that increases the chances of your having a good relation with your whether in your work, whether at your workplace or in your personal life, with your family, where on social networking sites, anywhere. So today we are going to talk about 2 scenarios where we will be discussing that how communication techniques and their applications help you to get more successful with those things. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is communication in a team. So so we are going to take an example of a typical workplace scenario. So if you are from the technical background or even from a managerial background, you would have always heard that there is a product manager post who actually looks over to the fact that how that particular product is being executed. He's going through cycles. There are various development cycles and all the kind of stuff. We'll not go into the details of it, but you just get a picture that product manager is a boss kind of a thing, and then there are certain employees who are working within it. So you can say that the product manager is the leader, and all the people working under that product manager are team members, and even product manager is also a fellow team member, but he is the leader who is also being a team member, is also leading the whole team. So if we have to say that communication in a team will happen, then it can happen through 2 channels. So one is as a leader. If you are a leader, you're going to communicate, and you would have to communicate more than your team members. And team members are also going to communicate, but as a leader, you are going to communicate more. So when it comes to as a leader, 3 things actually define your whole communication process, and it also heavily depend upon how you are going to communicate. For example, planning, coordinating, and performing. These 3 points kind of summarizes all of the things that okay, this is something that will depend upon the fact that okay, is the product getting successfully executed or not. So as a leader, when it comes to planning, so you have to collaborate with your whole team. You have to brainstorm over ideas so that you are the one who, so that your team and you deliver the potential product that you are thinking, potential service that you are thinking, or whatever it is, the project, the product, the planning, anything. We can just use the term project for that. So planning is a um, um, crucial stage when it comes to designing projects. So that time, that is so there are a lot of channels of communication that takes place while in the process of planning. First is that if you have a client, so that person will convey their expectations, what they are expecting from you, what they are expecting from a team. The client can be anyone, your boss's boss, your if you are working independently, anyone who wants something from you will convey the fact what they want from you. So your team's success will depend upon that how well are you acting on the things that you are, or how well are you communicating those expectations from the to the other person, to the other fellow team members. So planning will highly so planning, coordinating, performing, all these things will depend upon the fact that how well are you going to communicate with your team members, how okay, so okay. So, how well are you going to communicate with the other person? How well are you going to understand your team members? How well they are comfortable in communicating with you? So, all these things depend upon the fact. If you want to be a good leader, you should really have an edge over all the communication techniques, which involve you to go out and talk to your team members, make a comfortable atmosphere so that they can convey their grievances or anything that they are facing problems. So all this involves a lot of communication techniques in your daily life. So when we come to the second part, that is as a team member, what are you expecting to do? So as a team member, you are expected to collaborate within your people. Often at a lot of times, often there are a lot of situations where we don't end up getting well with our team members always. So sometimes there can happen a conflict can happen, or conflict of ideas, or you just don't gel up with someone, or anything of that sort. So that time collaboration comes into the rescue. Someone who is if you are someone who is not able to work with your fellow team members, that product, or even you as a person, will never succeed with your in your even in your professional endeavors, because it's not possible in the real life to have everyone get agreed with your ideas, or your whatever things that you think about or believe and think about. So that time you have to collaborate with someone. You have to consider also their ideas. They have to also consider your ideas in order for the smooth flow of things. So that is something that collaborating comes with. Networking simply means, uh, getting other people contacting other people. How well are you contacting them? How well are you contacting with your team members? And how well you have established the whole communication channel within all of your all of the needs that you want to establish as a team. So this is something that comes into the workplace scenario. We talked about team in a typical workplace scenario, because we are moving towards work. In today's world, we are largely moving towards remote working, and sometimes there are situations when you have not even seen the other person's face, but you have to carry out a whole big project with them. So there can be a lot of conflicts during that time, that okay, you don't match with their mentality, they don't match with your mentality, but that doesn't mean that you will walk out of the project, or that you will not be able to deliver. This is a time when communication techniques comes into the rescue. You understanding and having an empathetic approach towards their aspects, towards their thing, will help you to get an edge over all of these things, will help you to collaborate with them effectively, and that will largely and has a major role in impacting how well you are going to perform as a team member or as a team leader. This is going to have a large impact onto it. So next, we are moving towards communication in family, personal relationships, social networks, etc. So when we talk about this communication in family relationships and everything, we all know it is very beneficial for us to maintain that relationship with your family members, or to your friends, or any kind of relationship. Or any kind of social networking site, nowadays, because we have a large and huge presence on social networking sites, we also have a whole new identity and our personality displayed there also. So we have to maintain that, that whole network of ours. We have to maintain the kind of, rapport that you have with your family, with your friends, everyone. So, so why do you actually need to do that? Because have you ever fought with your best friend and try to sleep at night? It's very difficult because you are very close to them. So that means that having if you have some personal relationship with someone, and you are not able to, there is a communication gap within them. There's some misunderstanding with them. There is some, there's some series of events that happened, and you could have acted in certain way, but you didn't, and they could have acted in a more efficient way, but they didn't, and eventually it lead to a big conflict. And after that, the whole mental peace of ours gets disturbed. It gets destroyed. Actually, it just gets destroyed, and that is something that is very difficult to live with. So, having a good harmony in our personal relationships and our family members, or even in the social network, is is very important in order to have a good mental health, in order to have a good, a community to always go back to when you are not feeling good about, or when you are not feeling good about anything, or when you are not feeling just the right way that you should. So it really helps. So even you would be also like, even though you know that communicating in certain way, that problem can be solved by it, but still you don't act in the way always. So this is because we don't effectively inculcate the communication techniques that are said to us in a very, efficient way. So that is the problem that you can solve if you want harmony with all of the things that you want, that I stated above. You can do it by using effective communication techniques to that. So when it comes to communication in family, personal relationships, social networking, we usually do two things. Our motive for talking to them is exchange of meaning or influencing people. So exchange of meaning, what does that mean? So you obviously there is a big difference with the relationships that you have in your workplace and with the relationships that you have at your home. So that is the thing when it comes to it. So exchange of meaning means effectively telling what you are feeling about, effectively communicating the whole thought process in your head, because the kind of relations you have with them is very much beneficial. So it's very much beneficial for yourself. So yeah, so when you want to effectively exchange your meaning towards them, that you can use communication techniques to make your point very clear to them, so that you avoid every kind of conflict that can happen within your personal relationship, or with your family member or anyone. So influencing people. So generally, there's a big buzzword of social media influencer, and it has grown rapidly because of the higher, growing trending of social media in our daily life. So influencing people. So if you want to, there are two things that you can do if you want to convince someone, or if you want to say that, okay, this is something that I am doing. You can either force them to do it, or you can just play the mind trick. You can just go ahead and say that, okay, this is something that is beneficial for you. You can show the value points that they have and all of it, so that eventually they come and understand that, okay, this is something that I think is going to benefit me, and that is the reason I'm going to do it, rather than just thinking that, okay, the other person is forcing this on me. When they understand that it is valuable for them, they come ahead and they start practicing those things that you wanted them to practice. So all of this is, influencing people is literally big genre of, science of persuasion. It's a big topic to talk about. We just have we have large number of theories, and people to use it in marketing, and in social media marketing, and every kind of scenarios today you see. if you are able to buy something, you should understand that there is some value point attached to it, and the value point and giving the right, communicating that value point to the customer base is the responsibility of the other person. And how do you think that this all things happen? It is because people use effective communication techniques to make you influence, to influence you from all those things. So yeah, so we can quite literally say that okay, this is something that we intend, to do in our daily lives, and all those things can really impact the way how well we are going to have a good network around us, a good family relation, a good personal relationships, anything. And this is not, and actually exchange of meaning and influencing people is not just limited to your personal life. It is also somewhere down the line, it is also involved in your workplace. So if you are not having good relations with your colleagues, you are definitely not going to enjoy your job, even if that's the job that you dreamed, every time, like you dreamed for it. But if you are not going to have a good good colleague to always look back to if you are facing any kind of problem, obviously the job satisfaction is going to increase, is going to decrease. So that is something that we have to take care about. So if I have to summarize right now, so what are the things that we talked about in a team? It's that you can communicate in two roles, that is as a leader and as a team member. So when you communicate in the form of a team leader, your main agenda is planning, coordinating, performing. So this is something that involves huge amount of communication. And we saw that if you are not going to not going to deliver the correct points to the other person or to your team members, that thing is not going to not the team is never going to work. It is not going to work in the expectations of other people. So some of the people that you took all the points to, that you had to deliver it. So coordinating, performing, and all these things involve huge amount of communication, and not just speaking abilities. I'm not just talking about how well do you speak. It also depends upon how well are you writing your things. There are a lot of times when you have to actually report the whole meeting, when you actually have to make report of a big project that you did, and that also writing is also considered as a form of communication, and effectively writing a piece of content is also a part of communication. So these are the things. Implying this small techniques in your life is going to have a large impact overall. So this is something that you can look to it. And as a team member, as I said, in this new age of remote working, also remote working or not the remote working scenario, no problem about it, but you are always asked to be, collaborate. You're always asked to collaborate with your team members. You are always asked to know, okay, this is something that if you know, your ideals are not matching, yeah, to some extent we cannot work, but that doesn't mean that okay, quitting is the only option. At times we face those kind of situations, and it is very important for us to understand it and to to tackle it and to tackle it effectively. And when you can do that with using just effective communication techniques, it's just a plus point for all of us to look onto it. Second, we talk about communication in family, personal relationships, social networks. So as I said, that in this new age of technology, we are really having a big impact of social media in our lives, and also it also has a big impact on the way we perceive ourselves, the identity that we want for us. So yeah, so this is something that I would like to say right now, and I think we have come to the things, and the floor is open to questions. Any kind of questions that you have regarding this topic will be answered. But before then that, I will like to address two FAQs that you kind of will be having. So the first thing is that why you should take up this course. So as we all know that English is something that we have always have been taught in our schooling, in our colleges and everything. But so when I and Dhairya were looking into the curriculum of it, we were largely emphasizing on how what we have learned, yet we can apply it into daily life. So this is something that the whole curriculum is designed in an application based scenario. We have literally thought about applications where we can actually use those things. Everything that you have learned in your school or in your college, that is going to help you. But understanding that where it is going to help you is going to give you an edge over everything. So be if you are a person from managerial aspect or from a person from technical background, you are going to use, I think you are going to use communication always. There is no doubt about it. Even if you go and Google things and Google some positions in some of the big tech companies or in the big management companies, there would be one line that is always constant within all the requirement applications. It is that the candidate should have excellent communication, speaking, and writing skills. And this is something that always prevails. So if you're looking into it, you should also understand that when you are enhancing your skills as as a potential future manager or as a future, technical guy. So you should always consider that you should never neglect the fact that how communication can shape your life. Because at the end of the day, no matter how knowledgeable you are, if you're not able to deliver what you have learned till now, if you're not able to communicate your ideas to other people, then I don't think so. I mean, it's just a general notion that you won't be able to succeed because people are not able to understand what you are saying. So this is something that will come to your handy. So you should really consider taking up the course because it is going to give a edge over it. And second thing is that if you are thinking that okay, so this is not a trending technology, the trending skills that are in the market, but if you would understand, but as I said, this is not a trending, subject in the market that I should consider. Like if it is a machine learning course or a Python course or anything, people just run away towards it. And they don't understand that at the end of the day, it's the communication, their language speaking ability, the way they present themselves, their personality is going to make a huge impact on how they are going to shape up their career. So you should really, really understand the importance of it. And I think surely there are as we discussed in the is in this session, we also talked about certain areas. We touched upon the things. We just saw around two scenarios, but we also observed that there are so many communication techniques that we are using even in our daily life unknowingly. So when you know that okay, this is something that I can do and improve, you're always going to be having a good time with it. So yeah, so in our syllabus, we are going to talk about more such areas where you're going to apply your communication technique, where you're going to understand that what it is to, apply them and get a edge over certain things. So yeah, the floor is open to questions. If you have any kind of questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. So yeah, uh, you guys can go ahead with it. Okay, so do we have any kind of questions? Dhairya, if you don't have any questions, I think you can go ahead with your part of
Josh,
things.
I think there is a question in the chat box by Ritu.
Oh, okay. Is it? Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So we have very good questions here coming up. So okay. How to speak English without fear? Hi. Okay. So this is something that even I had a personal experience with, and to start with, if I have to suggest you, I think basic elementary level of English everyone knows. So if you want to enhance your English speaking skills, I think you should, you know, first thing is practice with yourself. Like if you are alone in a room, if you are somewhere, you just look at the mirror and start speaking about anything that you feel about. You can always come back after the day ends, and you can go ahead and you can speak about how was your day, what were the experiences that you don't like, what you could have changed, and speak in English. And I'm saying this from my own personal experience. I had this thing from I have I've really been I have always understand the importance of it, but I never could actually make things possible for me to speak effectively. So when it comes to this practice every day for quite some time, and you will start seeing the change within you. You will start to know that you are able to get sentences into place, get some vocabulary, get some places. And the second thing that I would say, to enhance that process of practicing, you should start reading books. It's very important. It's a very integral role. It plays a very integral role in understanding, in making your vocabulary strong, having ideas about it. When you know, when you read even one single book, you have certain ideas that you have inside your head. And believe it or not, whatever book you read, you will always find some one or the other, two situations um, that are relatable to it. So if you are going to, if you are going to read books, it is going to increase your chances of speaking English very, very fluently. I have been there. I have taken that thing into consideration, and it has helped me largely. So you should really consider practicing. Second is reading books. And another thing that is growing very, very rapidly is listening to podcasts. Podcasts are very good source of you know learning things and reading things. Even if you're doing something other than that, you can just plug in a podcast, and you will see tremendous amount of elevation in your skills. You will understand that okay, this is something people are speaking when they are asked about one certain topic, they answer, because podcasts are generally interview based. The other one person asks a question and the other person answers to it. You will really start relating to it, that if someone asks you that question, what would you have answered? So you can again practice it within your head. You can always say that okay, this is something. Okay, if someone had asked me that what is your idea about this, so the other person said something else, but you have certain ideas. So you can go ahead and you can practice it yourself. You will slowly understand. You'll slowly understand, and you will slowly get to know that okay, day by day there will be some progress within yourself, and you will really feel it. If you do this if you do this sincerely, you are going to feel the change within you. And after a time when you are quite confident with your skills, you can go ahead, you can talk with people. And I think you should start with a community that that doesn't pinpoint you in a negative way. Collect a community of people who are intending to learn English, speak fluently, are intending to speak English fluently. They also want to elevate your skills. So you can also go ahead and develop a community around you, so that you are not pinpoint, you are not said wrong to whenever you make a mistake, you are not said negatively. In fact, the other person wants you to grow, and that is the reason that you can go ahead and have a community of that sort. And at Yale, also within this course, we are going to have this a lot of times, that we are intending to build a community that actually teaches each other. There's a good amount of peer-to-peer learning that is going to happen here. You can always, and we have this course. We are intending to uh, say this, and even after, and even Dhairya has a good amount of this experience in public speaking in public places, and so she is very experienced with that. And me and Dhairya are going to help you a lot with it if you're going to be part of this. And also, other than that, also you can practice onto the things that I said. That is practicing first with yourself. Second is reading books. And if you're not good at reading books, you can start with audio books. If you are, there are some books that are also available freely on YouTube. You can just start with it, and then you can eventually grow into reading hard books. And then third is podcast today, because it is growing very rapidly, and it's a good thing. If you are doing something else and you just, rather than just listening to music, you can always go ahead and plug in a podcast, and that amount of knowledge that you're going to get at that point of time is going to be huge. It's going to make a very big change. So yeah, I think that answers your question. Okay, so we have another question, that is, how do you like to introduce yourself if you are an introvert formally? Okay, so I mean, it's not a problem of you being an introvert, but you should be introvert to specific things. Your workplace will not appreciate if you are an introvert person. So again, I think again the thing is that you should start practicing with yourself before going anywhere. You should if your intention is to speak, if your intention is to deliver some content to another person, you should first practice it with yourself. If you think that you are less confident about delivering it, you should know that okay, this is the time that I will commit to talk about it. There are a lot of so when we talk about introducing yourself, if it's a formal if you are a it's a formal satire, I would say that okay, your name and including your education, and also including what course you are taking up, what are your interests in life, in the sense of in your academic prospects, is going to help you a little bit about your interests or hobbies, you can say, if it's a formal satire. If it's an informal satire, if you're meeting someone like informally, you can just go ahead with your name, maybe the place from where you are originally belong, or if you have migrated to someone, you can say that I'm staying here, but I'm originally from here. I had an experience. I was working as a this, and then I shifted here. You can talk about in my free time I do this, I do that. These are my hobbies. But informally, you don't have any kind of restrictions. You can go ahead and talk about yourself. You can first put your name, and maybe to add over it, you can talk about that. Where are you from? It's a complete stranger, if you're talking about it to a complete stranger. Yeah, if you have met someone like twice or thrice, you can just go ahead. Hey, I'm this and this. Uh, so then you can start with the conversation. I think, yeah, I think that answers your question. If I've not answered any part of it, you can write it back to the chat box, in the chat box. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think uh, I think that's pretty much it. We don't have any more questions. I hope, guys, you had an good time in this session. So I would love to see you all at our course. And I told you the importance of taking up this course, and I think that that the point was very clear. I'm I'm very sure that you're going to enjoy Dhairya's session. She's very good with it, and yeah, all both of us are going to for you, wait for all of you to join us. So I call it a day for now. Over to you, Dhairya.
Thank you so much, Adhyasha. And your session was pretty amazing. I'm sure all of them have gained certain insights on how they can apply communication into their real life scenarios. And so, yeah, before I take it up from here, Adhyasha, are we going to like continue with the same PPT, or do you want me to share my screen because it's the same, right? Can we
I think you controlling it would have a like more control,
yeah,
because you will be speaking, so you can control your timings
exactly.
accordingly. Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
I'll just unshare it. Just a
Sure,
minute.
sure, sure.
Yeah. I think you're good to go, Dhairya.
Okay, just let me
Yeah.
try. Can you see my screen, Adhyasha?
Not yet, Dhairya. Just a moment.
Okay, just let me know when you do because it says that
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
sharing.
yeah. Yeah, I can see your screen now.
Okay, is it visible?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's visible. The
Great,
PPT is visible.
great. So
There are
yeah,
some small glitches there. Yeah. I don't
hmm,
know if is it on your side?
what is the problem?
There are some small glitches.
You cannot hear me, is it?
No, no, no. The screen. There are some small glitches on the screen. Can you
Uh,
just refresh the PPT or something, or
sure,
can you just unshare it and share it again?
yeah. Can you see it now?
It's loading there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's visible there. Yeah. You can go ahead.
Great. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining in and staying so patient and giving us a chance to basically let you know why communication is so important in today's day and age. So now that Adhyasha has already told you what are the various areas wherein you can actually effectively communicate, be it at your workplace, be it with your family members, your friends, or literally with everybody, because communication is such an essential part of your day-to-day life. I'm here to talk about one such part where I believe most of the people struggle, just because of the mere fact that people are involved in it and not just one or two, but a huge audience is involved. Even if it's 10 people, for some people, it's very intimidating and very scary to actually speak in front of people. So that's nothing but public speaking. Now, before I really go on to what public speaking is as per a definition or what you can get on Google. I used to believe that public speaking is only when you're actually speaking in front of, let's say, more than at least 4 to 5 people or 10 people, or let's say then it can go on, the number can keep increasing exponentially. But for me personally, now how I define it is because I've been speaking at various events, or in general, I've just been speaking at public places, just like Adyasha said. What I feel now is it's not just restricted to the number of people. Even when right now you're, let's say, a group of 5 people in front of me, or even if it was a conversation between just me and Adyasha, I call it public speaking, because as long as you're effectively communicating and putting forth across your ideas and thoughts, whatever is there in your head, irrespective of a large crowd, group of people, or just one person, you are doing public speaking. I know that the word is public and speaking, and it obviously very logically anyone can understand. It means that you're speaking in front of a public or an audience or a group of people. That for sure is true. But according to me, it also applies when you are having a conversation even with one person. Now, moving on to basically the essence or the main parts of public speaking. So public speaking basically helps you express your ideas, your thoughts, your opinions, whatever it is that you want to express, right? And it's majorly in the oratory form when you're speaking, because until and unless speech is not involved, you can't really call it public speaking, because it could be at a gathering, it could be at an event, your family function, it could be a presentation which you're giving in office or in your college for your final year project or anything like that, or it could be just a group discussion which you are a part of in your placement process. Whatever it may be, where you are actually involved in speaking in front of a group of people or individuals, for me, it is nothing but public speaking. And it involves the appropriate use of verbal as well as non-verbal communication. Now, by verbal and non-verbal communication, just to let you know, this is another important topic that me and Adyasha are also going to cover up in our course when you sign up for it at Yale. So, but just to give you a brief difference between non-verbal and verbal communication. So, verbal communication is anything which involves words and speech, right? But it may not necessarily involve the other aspects of communication, through which we don't really realize consciously that we are actually communicating via these different things, but you're actually doing it. Some of the examples are, right now when I'm speaking, I'm substituting my speech with hand gestures as and when needed. At the same time, I'm also changing my facial expression. Maybe I'm also changing my voice tone. I'm raising it where needed. I'm obviously stressing on certain words where I want to. So all of these things you don't really realize are part of communication, but just to let you know, they are part of non-verbal communication. Anything and everything which is not restricted to speech is non-verbal communication. It includes your body language, your body posture, the way you sit, if your shoulders are broadened or not, if they're slouched down, the kind of attitude that you show in front of people, is your facial expression matching with what you're saying? Let's say you're very, very excited about something, right? So you cannot have like a sad face, because both of them are going to contradict each other. So basically, your hand gestures, your body posture, basically your voice tone, voice modulation, all of these are parts of non-verbal communication. And by default, when you speak in front of people, it can be virtually, it can be in person, it can be giving a TEDx speech, it can be giving a speech in a Toastmasters club, or just speaking to your friends over a phone call. Unless if it's a video call, let's say. by default, you will be communicating not just by what you're saying, but also by these specific areas which I just mentioned. Okay. So that is what public speaking helps you realize, that it helps you gain that consciousness that yes, I do actually communicate via these modes as well. Moving on to the next thing, it generally, as I told you, in the form of speeches, webinars, talks, presentations, etc. So, in your day life, no matter if you're actually an introvert or an extrovert, there are some incidents that take place in your life or some events wherein you are required to speak in front of a group of people, even if you don't like it, even if you're someone who's very shy, because you don't have an option. Teachers just call you sometimes randomly in the middle of a class and they tell you to answer a particular question. You're just told to stand up and answer, right? That is kind of public speaking, because you're in a group of 60 people and you're put on the center light or on the spotlight and you're just told to express your ideas or your thoughts on that particular topic. And many a times we just uh, shudder away from it because we are so scared that we may stumble, we may fumble, or we may just not give the right answer. And that is nothing but the fear of public speaking. And I believe that most of the people, even if they're very good communicators, this is the problem which a lot of my juniors also face. And they tell me that, you know what, I'm okay with communicating, like I'm good at communicating, I'm a good and effective communicator. But when it comes to communicating in front of a group of people, that's when I go blank. I get anxiety attacks, or I get very scared and nervous, and you just have the fear of maybe being judged. And it happens with everybody. I'll just share a very small story which is coming to my mind right now because it totally applies to public speaking. So there is this organization essentially for improvising on your public speaking skills, which is called Toastmasters International, and you can be a part of it if you're a student and your university has an affiliation or a club and chapter with them. And you can also be a part of it if you're a working professional. Companies also have Toastmasters clubs in their corporate world, right? So I was a part of this club in my second and third year, and I had to audition for it in my first year of engineering. Now, when I had the audition round was basically just introducing yourself. I had to go up on a stage, there was a podium, and I had to stand up and introduce myself in about 4 to 5 minutes in front of 20 people. So they were the panelists who were going to decide if I'm going to get selected in this club or not. And it was very basic. I was like, okay, I have to introduce myself. And vocabulary and maybe sentence structuring was never a problem for me personally. So I thought it'll be very easy because I have to speak about myself. And it's like the easiest thing to do if you go to see it, right? So I went up on the stage. I obviously had prepared about like a page where I'd written down all the points and I'd memorized those points and gone because in case I forget them. And I went on the stage and I spoke for 1 minute straight. It was all going very well. And there it was. I just went blank for some reason. I don't know why it actually happened, but I couldn't recall what was my next line or I was supposed to basically say next. And I went blank on the stage. It took me about 45 seconds to actually realize that I had gone blank. And then it took me another 30 seconds to come up with the stage. It was very generous of the members there that they understood that this is something natural and it can happen. Maybe I'd become nervous. I had like a stage fear. At the same time, I was very anxious because uh, I'd never really spoken in front of a group of even 20 people before, as such, on a stage, being put on the spotlight. So that's when I realized that I do have a fear of public speaking somewhere down the line because had you normally spoken to me, I'm a very chirpy and an extroverted person and I can just, like start a conversation. I'm known for starting conversations. But that day I realized that I don't just need this club for maybe increasing my confidence, but moreover, I actually needed to remove this fear of public speaking which I had. And then somehow I just tried to recall what I had to say next. I took about 45 seconds and then I started speaking again. I spoke for another 3 minutes and they were very generous enough. The only reason they selected me was because I wanted to learn and I wanted to overcome this fear of public speaking. They didn't select me because I was the best public speaker, nor did they select me because I was very confident. So I was I'm always very indebted to them because whatever I'm able to do as a public speaker today, I owe it to Toastmasters International. So I started giving speeches every day there and sorry, every week there. So every week we were given a particular topic and you had to come up with a speech on it and I had to speak in front of 30, 40, sometimes 50 people. And with every passing week, obviously the confidence within me started increasing. And I used to start, basically having that confidence in myself. The nervousness started getting calmed down. So this was just a small story which I wanted to share, just to let you know that I've been through the fear of public speaking, and because I realized that I have a fear of it, and I overcame it by working on myself, is it that I'm able to speak in front of you today, or even take up a course on English and personality development today. Moving on to a very, very important topic, which is nothing but the aspects of public speaking. Now, I did tell you that when you're speaking publicly, you do have areas wherein you have to cater to verbal communication and you have to cater to non-verbal communication as well. But other than that, you also have different criteria which you need to keep in mind. The first one is that what kind of an event or an occasion are you going to be speaking at? By that I mean, let's say it's just a soft skills class which you have in college, and they've told you to, let's say, prepare a presentation on marketing, like the 4 P's of marketing or something like that. Yeah. Now, when you're what kind of an event or occasion is this? This is a formal event, if I may say so, because it's happening in your university. It's happening for a particular subject which you're pursuing in your graduation or degree, and the event is obviously formal, and you know that it's going to be in your college, in your university campus. So you need to recognize that this is going to be, let's say, an occasion of about some half an hour or so, because there'll be other people who will be lined up and have to give the same presentation on different topics as well. So it's very important for you to recognize what kind of an event it is. Like today, I'm giving a session to a group of people who want to improvise on their English and personality development skills and will be signing up for our course, most probably. And it is nothing but a virtual event. It's a webinar which I'm hosting. So that's the kind of event which I'm catering to. And this event is very different from, let's say, an event where I have to go and do stand-up comedy. Let's say I'm also a stand-up comedian and I've been called for a small gig somewhere. And that event is going to be completely different because the basic aim of the event is so different from what I'm doing right here. Or let me compare this with a webinar which I need to take on, let's say, LinkedIn profile building or something which I'm taking for a group of students in a college. That event is totally a different type of formal event wherein I'm being called as a keynote speaker to speak on something. So these were just a few examples to let you know that when you start public speaking, you need to keep these aspects in mind. That what kind of a event or occasion are you a part of? If you're having a normal discussion, you've gone out with you're hanging out, you're chilling, and you're just having a normal conversation on the news that has been popping in today. Let's say the new education policy came in very recently, and I think every person, be it of any age group, was talking about it. School students were so excited to know that there's going to be a complete change in the education policy. So let's say you're having a normal conversation with your friends, right? So it's not like an occasion as such, but the event is just a normal chit chat or a group discussion with your friends. Your style of speaking, your way of addressing them is going to be very different as opposed to if the same topic was given to you in a GD for an interview round for a potential company that you want to be a part of. So that is what I mean by recognizing the type of event or occasion. Because once you recognize different types of events and occasions, that's how you will cater or mold your speech accordingly. The second aspect of public speaking is research and background check for the selection of a topic. Now, by this, what I mean is, now that you've understood that, okay, this is the type of event or occasion at which I'm going to be publicly speaking in front of people, how are you going to actually come up with a topic? Unless obviously it's a group discussion, like I told you, the recruiter will give you a topic. That's a different scenario. Or let's say your boss has told you to give a presentation on how you can increase the revenue for the coming quarter. You already know, okay, this is my agenda and I need to come up with a speech on this or a presentation on this. Those scenarios are different. Let's say you're just called as a guest for giving a speech somewhere, a motivational speech. Now, motivational speech is a very broad term. Under motivational speech, there are so many domains. You can talk about so many things. You can talk about success. You can talk about failure. You can talk about goals. You can talk about health and fitness, how to build a good lifestyle, or in general, how to set your goals. So many things are there in motivation. How will you decide that what topic should I go for? So that is decided by basically understanding who is your audience, who is your target audience, is what you call it in marketing, TG. So if you're giving an event at a engineering college, your target audience is basically your first to fourth year engineering students. If you're giving a talk at, let's say, a summit wherein people from the age of 18 up till 30 are going to attend it. That's going to be your target audience. Or if you're giving a stand-up comedy gig, your target audience is going to be people who are actually passionate or like comedy. A person who is really not interested in stand-up comedy will not be your target audience, and they're not going to attend your event, right? So humorous people, funny people in general who are very light-hearted and they love comedy in general will be the ones who will be your target audience. So keeping them in mind, you need to come up with a particular topic. So as I said, today we did know that we cannot cover the entire course for you. Me or Adhyasha, we can obviously probably not cover those 20 or 25 hours of a course for you in 1 hour. But we knew it. We knew that we have to cover something which is relevant to you and relevant to the title of the course, which is English and Personality Development, and a potential area which we'll cover up in the course as well. So she decided to go with the real-time applications of communication. So that's the topic which she chose. And the topic which I chose after doing a background check of the kind of people who are going to join us, who are a potential audience, who will be joining us on this journey, I thought that why not cover public speaking as a topic, because it is anyways a part of a curriculum, and I thought that it will be something very interactive and which people can relate to. So keeping all of these factors in mind, I came up with this topic for myself, and I'm sure that Adyasha must have weighed her pros and cons, and that's when she came up with this particular topic for herself as well, because we had a list of topics which we could have chosen from, but we made our own decision keeping in mind the various factors and our kind of audience which is going to join us today, and then we move forward with the topic. And both of us are obviously publicly speaking right now, even though it's virtually. So that was just another aspect, and I think I try to give you as many as possible, real life scenarios which you can apply. And moving on to the third aspect of public speaking is structuring your speech based on a particular template or a framework. So, in simple words, what I mean is, when you're writing an email, right? When you write an email, you have a space for a recipient. Obviously, you type the person who you want to send the email to, you type their email address. You have a space for a subject line as well, wherein you type the subject. What is it? What is the reason why you're writing to them? The person should know that why is Dharia writing to me, or let's say why is Rabia writing to me. There must be some reason. So there's always space for a subject line, if you must have seen in an email. And then there is a body part wherein you include your main content, and then you end with those greetings, that thanks and best regards, or yours sincerely, something like that, and you put in your name or an end conclusion line. Similarly, when you're giving a speech or when you're talking, your flow or your speech has to be in sync and seamlessly with a very good, well-defined structure. You must have seen that Adhyasha started with a opening line. She introduced you to communication, the areas where you can use it. She gave you real life scenarios and where you can apply it. That so she started with an introduction, which was your subject line. Then she moved on to her body or her content, the main content of real life scenarios. And in the end, she concluded it with letting you know, so these are the possible areas where you can apply it. And she hoped that you liked the session, and she told you what all can you expect in the course as well. And then she opened the floor for questions. So that was a conclusion part. Similarly, when you're giving a speech, you have to have an opening line, an opening statement, an introduction to a particular topic. Let's say you're giving a speech in an event on women empowerment. I'm just taking a random example which is coming to my head. Now, women empowerment, you cannot just randomly start with, okay, this is my opinion on women empowerment, and these are the areas where I feel that women are not equally empowered or they don't have an equal footing with men. That will be very, very random to get into, and your audience will be lost. You have to start with a basic definition of what women empowerment is, according to you, or according to the internet, or according to people in general. Just like I started with, irrespective of knowing, it could be possible, and I'm sure most of you must have been knowing what public speaking is, and people feel that there's no need to let go to the basics, but you have to always go to the basics, because you never know, you have a mixed audience at times, and you have to always keep it at the very basic underground level and start with the basics. And that's why I gave it a minute, but I made sure I made my audience understand what public speaking is according to norms and definition, and what I have started feeling it is over the years. So similarly, start with a very good introduction, which is very, very eye-catching, very grabbing. Move on to your body, whatever may be the topic. Let's say women empowerment. Give them instances, use statistics, and let them know that in particular, cities in India, how is the scenario when it comes to women empowerment? What are the areas where you feel they've been lacking equal rights? give them statistics, tell them real life scenarios where maybe you have felt that you were not empowered enough being a woman or whatever it is, right? So that's how you move on to your that will form the body of your speech. And then slowly you transition to your conclusion, or you call it the ending, wherein you'll be talking about now, okay, these were the problems that you're facing, and these are the real life scenarios you see where women are not empowered enough. And according to you, these are the potential solutions to those problems. Or this is what you think can be done, or this is how the situation can be improved. And then let's say maybe you end it by taking in or getting into an interactive conversation with the audience, or ending it in the sense that I would love to know what is your opinion on women empowerment, and I would love you to share your stories or real life stories which you've witnessed. So at the you have basically hit two targets. You have obviously ended your speech on such a powerful note by letting them know that what are the solutions to these problems. But at the same time, you've involved the audience along with you and you've made it so interactive. So that's how you structure your speech based on a particular template or a framework. It's totally up to you what you include in these three parts. But that's the general flow that you should have, just like an email or just like a normal conversation. Moving on to the fourth aspect of public speaking, which is nothing but timing your speech according to the event. Now, timing is everything, trust me. Today, when we are giving this session to you, we know that we can possibly go beyond any time limit to answer your questions for sure. But obviously, to let your audience know that this is the defined time for which we will require your attention for sure, we gave you slots. The 6 to 8 p.m. today, you have to attend English and Personality Development Scholarship Program, right? Similarly, when you are called for a webinar and you're told to attend it compulsorily by your college, a guest speaker is coming in and you have to attend basically a talk given by some industry expert. They give you a time slot that between 6 to 7 p.m., all the students of first year, or let's say of a particular branch, are requested to attend this particular guest session because it's going to help you improvise your knowledge on so and so topic. Why is that time slot actually given? Do you really think if we did not put a time limit to things, people could just go on? And some people who have a habit of talking and who are very chirpy, it basically gives a very negative and a wrong impression. And moreover, everything has to have their limits and foundations and boundaries. And that is why when you're giving a speech, when you're giving a talk, webinar, whatever it is, there is a particular time for you to speak. Even when you're having a general conversation with your friend, if it is just you who is going to keep speaking on the phone and you don't give the other person a chance to speak, then it's not going to be a two-way communication. And that is why I'm not telling you need to obviously time that, okay, it's been 5 minutes and I've been speaking, now it's your turn to speak. But what I mean is, yeah, when you organically speak, right, there are moments where you understand now it's time for your friend to pick it up from you, or maybe he or she has something to say, and then you take it up. So similarly, when you're giving a speech, let's say you're giving a TEDx speech, by default they give you a time frame of between 12 to 18 minutes, if I'm not wrong. That's what I know by my knowledge, that it cannot go probably beyond 18 to maximum 20-21 minutes. It obviously also varies on different TEDx organizations as well, but that's the ideal duration. Similarly, most of the webinars which you see which are happening, various startups are conducting it, colleges are conducting it. They range between 45 to 1 hour, 45 minutes to 1 hour is what I've generally seen. Or let's say podcasts. There are a lot of video podcasts and audio podcasts which are happening. I remember that even when I used to give them or host them, initially when this COVID era started, all of us were so bored, and podcast was something so new and so exciting that people were pumped up and they wanted to listen to different podcasts on different domains. So I remember 1.5 hours also people were okay with listening to it. But now everyone has come to their saturation limit and no one can listen to a podcast, be it in the video or the audio form or even a webinar, for maximum more than 30 minutes. I believe 30 minutes is also a lot, but that's because human beings have a very less attention span. And even if we try to put our concentration to a particular topic, we tend to get distracted by external factors or even internal factors. We just cannot hold our attention to something for more than 30 minutes at the max. Researchers actually show that you cannot hold your attention more than 1 minute. That is too less, I believe. I'm not so pessimistic. I believe in humanity. And I think we can at least hold our attention for 15 to 20 minutes. So, according to the event, please time your speech. Because let's say you've been called for an event wherein you have a group of speakers who are going to speak, right? And one after another, there's going to be a trail which is going to be followed. So, you've been given a time slot of 15 minutes. And as soon as you finish, the next speaker is going to come up. And like I knew Adyasha is going to be given like about 50 to 55 minutes to speak. And right after she is done, I'm going to be the next one who has to take it forward for the remaining 55 minutes, right? So we knew our time slot and she did not exceed her time. She respected my space, and at the same time, I knew that I have to speak next. So I was ready with my part. So timing is extremely important. So time your speech or your public event speech that you're going to give according to that particular event or guidelines which are given to you, because you should never intervene into someone else's time, and nor should you actually bore your audience. So understanding what your audience can withhold for a particular amount of time, keep your speech structured according to those timings. At Toastmasters, we have 8 minutes at the max for your speech timing, and you cannot go beyond that, because we do understand you cannot probably engage the audience for a time more than that, right? So that's the third aspect of public speaking. Sorry, the fourth aspect of public speaking. Moving on to the last aspect of public speaking, which is appropriate body language, hand gestures, and etc. Now, in etc., there is a lot that gets covered, but as I told you, when you're actually speaking up or going up on a stage, um, it's not just what you're speaking that is observed. The way you're standing, the way your hand gestures are they really wide? Are they narrow? Are you really nervous? Are you fiddling with something in your hand? Do you have like a pen in your hand? Do you have a notebook in your hand which has got notes to point, and you're looking down again and again towards your notes to read and get reference as to what you have to say next? So that kind of distracts your audience, because firstly, it gives an indication that you're not well prepared. Second thing, it shows uh, that you're very anxious, nervous, or you're not confident enough. Because if you tend to look down again and again, the audience gets distracted, and it's kind of disrespecting the audience, because they've taken out the time and they've come to listen to your speech or presentation or whatever it is. You need to maintain an eye contact with them rather than looking down and referring to notes, right? So it's very necessary to maintain an eye contact with the with your audience. Now, when you're actually giving those live events, which we can't give obviously because of COVID, but when you're giving a speech, or like when I had to give my introduction speech in Toastmasters, the story which I told you in the beginning, I had people sitting in the middle. There were benches put up in the left side, right side, and in the middle. So people were there here on the left side. Also, people were sitting in the middle section of the room as well, and on the right side as well. Now, as a human being, I cannot potentially look at all three sides at one time. It is impossible. But what you can ensure is that you maintain your eye contact, or you cater to each part of the audience. Even if you do it in phases, please look towards the right side, give it 5 minutes, and then or you basically address the audience who's sitting in the middle right in front of you. Then give it a pause of 5 minutes, and then cater to the audience who's sitting at the right side, right? Because that way your audience won't feel neglected. And never ever show the back to your audience. That's a very, very wrong indication. So never show a back to your audience, because that leaves a very wrong impression. And cater to all parts of your audience. Maintain a good eye contact, because eye contact is proportional to confidence. The better your eye contact, the more confident you are. Even when you're giving an interview, and let's say you're having a one-on-one HR interview, and the interviewer is asking you questions, the very basic question which every interviewer has. Please introduce yourself, right? Or tell me a bit more about yourself. Most of the people tend to get very, very nervous, and they don't really know what should you say. So they tend to look down, or they tend to look left and right, and they don't look into the eye with the recruiter. Now, this is something which you shouldn't be doing. Always maintain a good eye contact, because even though you may not be knowing, or you may the things which you're referring to may be wrong. I'm not saying it may always be correct. At least by maintaining an eye contact, you are covering up for something, because you're at least letting them know that you're confident with what you're saying. Similarly, when giving a speech, you cannot look left and right and down and bottom or whatever it is. You have to maintain an eye contact with your audience. So that comes in your non-verbal communication. Your body language has to be very, very strong. Your postures have to be straight. You cannot be slouching down. And you cannot be possibly wanting your audience to be very energetic and super pumped for your speech if you yourself are very lethargic, very lazy, and you're like, your body posture is just showing that you're disinterested. Because we may not know it, but your body language, your body posture, they throw out signals. They let people know that what is actually going on in your mind. And we don't tend to realize this, but it is what it is. And as I've already covered, hand gestures, obviously, hand gestures are also a very important part. Keeping them as wide as possible portrays a lot of confidence. So make sure that you do that. So I think I've covered almost the majority of the aspects which I wanted to cover about public speaking. And I don't want to keep it very long, wherein I'm doing a one-way communication. So this is the last topic, wherein I just want to summarize to you what actually is the importance of public speaking. And after that, I would be very, very thrilled to actually have like a maybe a one-on-one conversation or interact with you in general. I would like to know more about the people who have joined the call and answer your questions, right? So let's keep it interactive. This is the last topic from my side, which is importance of public speaking. Public speaking is important because of the basic virtue that it helps you become very confident in your own skin. It helps you become a better leader because once you're able to communicate effectively and speak in front of a group of people, you by default become a good leader, right? So it helps you improvise on your leadership skills. At the same time, it helps you develop a strong personality for yourself. And the other thing that it does is it helps you boost your confidence. It helps you enhance your communication and interpersonal skills as well. So when you do public speaking, your confidence will obviously increase. At the same time, your communication skills will increase because you will improvise on your vocabulary. You will understand different ways of speaking and articulating your sentences, and your interpersonal skills, basically understanding what your audience wants or needs and framing your speech according to it. That is nothing but interpersonal skills, becoming good with people and understanding what people want from you. The last thing which makes public speaking so important is it helps you become a well-aware person. So because of public speaking and speaking on different topics, your general knowledge or your knowledge on different topics increases multifold. So in general, you become a very well-aware person. It improves research capabilities because before giving a speech on any topic, you will have to potentially Google and do some amount of research via different articles, blogs, listening to podcasts, and understanding what the topic is. And then you gather your thoughts and obviously write a speech for yourself and speak. So it obviously also increases your presentation skills because when your confidence increases, when you become a good public speaker, at the same time, your presentation skills also get improvised. So these were the few areas which public speaking basically helps you in, and that is why public speaking is so important. Thank you so much for joining in, guys, and I hope I've been able to cover most of the things that I wanted to. The floor is open for any kind of questions or interaction that you would like to have. I'll stop sharing the screen, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much, Tabia. If you have any kind of questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box, or you can even unmute yourself. That's not a problem. Adyasha, can you hear me by any chance? Or
I was able to hear you all the time. I think Ritu said that your voice is
voice
breaking,
was
but I was
breaking?
able. I
Were you
guess
able?
it was from. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it was from her side because I was able to hear you completely.
Okay, great. If you have any questions, Rabia, for me or Adyasha, feel free to move forward with it. Or if there isn't any question, you can also let us know.
Question, then
But
we can. Yeah. I think we are good to end the session, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Rabia, for
Okay.
joining in. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Adyasha.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, yeah. Bye. Bye.